Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Hanging Out for a Living, where we have the privilege of conversing with the dynamic Mershawn Hargrave, founder and owner of High Vibe Cowork. Mershawn is the heart and soul behind a thriving community of entrepreneurs and creatives whose pursuits are fueled by audacious goals, innovative ideas, and heartfelt aspirations. If you're an entrepreneur in the making, a goal getter, or a passionate dreamer working on your passion project, you're in for an enriching treat. Mershawn, with her day-to-day commitment to her community and unwavering belief in collective power, serves as a beacon for all those seeking to manifest their dream life. So, Mershawn, welcome to Hanging Out for a Living.
Thank you so much for having me. And what a beautiful introduction. I did not write that. That's really cool that just in our conversations that we have had that you were able to take that and put it so beautifully. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I only, as I tell everyone, I only speak the truth, and being the heart-driven entrepreneur, that's where it all has to come from, right?
Yeah.
So let's dive in, and I know our listeners are eager to hear from you. So we have a couple of questions, well, maybe like four. We'll go ahead and ask you. So, Rashawn, could you share the inspiration behind High Vibe Cowork? How did this idea really transform into a reality?
Yeah, sure. So, there's so many answers and so many kind of one-offs that added up to getting here. But at the end of it, I was running a virtual or a book club for women entrepreneurs locally. We were meeting up once a month, and all the books were centered around some were business, but a lot were like self growth books. And I would leave those meetings and I would just feel like I was on cloud nine.
Mm.
And so I would always ask myself when I left, how can I create more of this? I just wanted to create more spaces, more conversations, more connections like that. And I was doing a lot of different networking events and just going out and trying different communities and seeing who I kind of vibed with. And I would always leave and I would call my dad because he's kind of like my business
Yeah.
bestie. He's an entrepreneur as well. And he would ask me, he would say, how high vibe was that? So that was kind of the barometer that I would put all these different events up against. And I couldn't find exactly what I was craving. So I created it. And in the winter, kind of fall of 2020, I was in sales. I was in selling software to car dealers. And I wasn't showing up for myself because I was working from home as I typically would in the office. And so I put it out to my network and said, hey, I'm going to open a Zoom room Monday mornings for half an hour. You can come in, say what you're working on that week. We'll set aside some time to put it into our calendar. And then we'll check back in on Fridays and say, how did you do? And we'll celebrate something from the week as well. And it seemed to be really impactful. And it was something that I really enjoyed doing. I was showing up better. I was connecting and energized through what other people were doing. And so it has just grown from there.
Absolutely love that. That is so awesome. I love your father. Wow, what an insightful wow, mentor he really is, not just your
Yeah.
dad. It's
Yeah.
incredible. So you shared some stuff there, but I'm sure in all of that, what have has been really some of the most rewarding experiences or success stories within your community that you could share with us?
Yeah. I really loved this question because it's just, I feel similar to how you started. I feel so lucky to be along on the journey with so many women entrepreneurs. They're just the coolest people. And the fact that I get to have conversations with them every day is just so, it's really, I feel really lucky.
Mm.
But in the group, what I have noticed is that when you're on the self growth journey, whether you're building a business or a passion project or just looking to grow yourself, how you do one thing can bleed into how you do everything. So, for example, setting up boundaries. It's really a muscle that you're using. And so maybe it starts out as, it's 7 o'clock and your mom calls, and that's, when you're putting kids to bed. And so you're like, I'm not going to answer because it's going to stress me out and it's just adding too much. So I'm setting up the boundary that if she calls during bedtime, I don't answer. And you use that muscle a couple times and it feels good and you feel empowered. And then, you're setting aside time to write because you want to write a book. And someone asks to set up a meeting during the time that you set aside to write that book. And you say, nope, that time is blocked. Can we find another time? And again, it's just using that muscle in a bigger situation that has more impact. And then you've used it enough where, maybe someone offers you a book deal and you feel like you should get a certain amount of money or resources or anything for that book deal. And if you feel lowballed, you've used that muscle of this is what my time, energy, resources, knowledge is worth. You can stand up for yourself and say, no, this is what my worth is. And so this is what I'm showing up as. And so I think the coolest thing is just seeing them use these muscles in these small instances, and then having it lead and grow into other aspects of their life that they feel very proud of and feel empowered by. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it is showing up intentionally for yourself is a muscle that you just have to practice using. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
that.
I never thought of it as a muscle that you have to practice using. So thank you for that. That's really insightful and really empowering, as you said. So you host daily meetings focusing on the needs of the community. So how do you manage to keep these discussions engaging, and what key areas do you tend to focus on?
Yeah. So the bread and butter of the calls are the Monday, Friday calls. Those
Okay.
are the ones that are, mandatory. It's your life. You can show up to them if you want, but those are the ones that really are the heart and soul of it. And so Monday is, I run them in 10-week cohorts. And so people come in with a overarching goal for the 10 weeks. And on Mondays, we say, okay, what are the 2 to 3 steps you're going to take forward this week, with that being your North Star goal? And how are you going to move the needle forward this week? Because it really helps chunk it out, because when you're growing a business or any, project, you have this big plate that's full of all these things that can get done. And so if you're able to just say, okay, this is what I'm going to do this week, this is how I'm going to move the needle forward. At the end of 10 weeks, if you've done 2 to 3 things every week, you've made big sweeping changes towards your goal. And then Friday is, how did you do? What's a lesson from the week? What's a celebration from the week? And sometimes the celebration is, it's Friday and I made it, And
That's
then how you're going to practice rest and gratitude
mm,
on during the weekend to kind of recuperate and get ready for the following week. Tuesday and Thursday are co-working times. So I open the Zoom room. People come in with their stuff that they want to get done. Sometimes it's their list from Monday. Sometimes it's digging into their email because it's just piled up. Sometimes it's paying bills because you just need time, kind of adult time to do that. Sometimes it's focusing on their copy for their website or content creation for social media. It's anything that you need to focus on and you need dedicated time to get done. And there's space to do it. And then Wednesday is, a lot of the other calls throughout the week are very tactical.
sure.
How do you take steps forward towards your goal? How do you move the needle? How do you get stuff done? Very kind of one step in front of the other. And then on Wednesday, I call it the Millionaire Morning Mindset Call,
Mm,
which is really just kind of a 20,000-foot look at yourself as a whole human being. I sometimes focus it around money. Running a business, cash is king. Cash flow is the lifeblood. And I think that money is taboo in general in society talking about it, but it's so crucial. And
right.
it's another one of those things where like we feel like everyone has their stuff together, everyone knows what they're doing, everyone like has a super clean P&L and has their ducks in a row. And when you really start to talk to people, like, oh, we're all just here trying to figure this out. um but also money is morally neutral. It's an energetic exchange. And so you could be making $100,000 a year but have a poor mindset around money and
Sure.
scarcity and really struggle with it. And you can make $30,000 a year and be really abundant in your life because of the choices that you're making. But also, sometimes being a mindset call, when you're in growth, the things that are going to come up are fear and failure and imposter syndrome and doubt and who am I and all of these things that kind of pull us back into our brain being safe, but it's keeping us small. And so what a lot of times what the call is doing, it's shining a light on those scary things or things that come up and saying, hey, I know you're there. I know you're trying to keep me safe. Hop in the car, you can come along for the ride, but you're not touching the radio and you're not touching the GPS. So it's just kind of saying that those are all parts of the journey, but how do we still continue and be courageous in our actions when they show up?
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned 10-week cohort. How
Mhm.
many people are in the group every 10 weeks? How many do you have?
Yeah, I cap it at 6
Okay.
because the Monday, Friday calls are 30 minutes. That kind of seems it's the perfect amount of time because it creates that community feel.
Sure.
A lot of that energy is very contagious when you see other people doing it, and also like you feel cheered on by a group of 6 people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, but
It's cozy.
it is. It is.
It is, you get to know each other a little bit more intimately that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one last question before we let you go. And you already touched on this a little bit, and maybe you'd like to elaborate. With the power of the community being at the heart of high vibe co-work, how do you maintain this ethos and still, while you're still encouraging individual growth and initiative?
Yeah. I It's such a contagious energy that it's almost like you can't help but leave the calls being like, I'm gonna go take over the world. Like
I
it's
love
so
it.
contagious. And as like women entrepreneurs, we show up a lot for other people.
Mhm.
And so to have a space where you can show up for yourself and what is important to you, say just saying yes to that is starts the momentum. So it's all about taking those first couple steps. That's the hardest part. You always hear that the hardest or the heaviest weight to lift at a gym is the front door. It's
Yeah,
just getting there,
exactly.
and saying yes and showing up is the hardest part, and then the rest kind of just takes care of itself.
Wise words. Exactly. Exactly. I love it. So we hope you've enjoyed this inspiring conversation with Mershawn Hargrave as much as we did. And if you're curious about High Vibe Co-work, want to be a part of this vibrant community, or simply wish to connect with Mershawn, we encourage you to reach out. You can find contact details in the description of this episode. And remember, when we come together with audacious goals and heart-centered passions, the possibilities are limitless. Thank you, Mershawn, for reminding us of the power within our dreams and the community around us. So until next time, everybody, we'll see you later. Thanks again, Mershawn. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Teresa.